it's an interesting challenge because even though my parents were together and my father provided very well for us, I didn't spend much time with my father. Now, this is a key difference from our ancestors and how we were before the industrial societies. Like, boys used to grow up around the women, and then they were taken out by the men to get a rite of passage, and they'd spend time in just a world of men, and they would learn how to be a man by watching men.
Mm-hmm.
They'd spend time with their dads and uncles, but also they'd get to see what all the different flavors of masculinity are in a community.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, here's one way of being a man. There's the singing, dancing guy. There's the warrior, and there's the craftsman, and there's the grumpy, the grumpy shaman who lives on the edge of the village. But for us and for me, is that my dad went to work every day, put his head down at a desk, and came home often very cranky and tired and crabby, not wanting to see the things I wanted to show him. No, not because he didn't like me or was being mean, but he was tired out.
Yeah.
Right. And so my view of masculinity was essentially shaped by my mother's view of my father and my mother's view of the world and of men. Right. And based on speaking to a lot of men, this is a pretty common experience in our culture, is we as boys grow up without having like a really fleshed out conception of masculinity from the viewpoint of masculinity. We always see it through the eyes of the women because as children we grow up among women, or the mother's friends who drove the carpool, right? And a lot of our teachers, especially in primary school, are women, and it's a whole world of women. So this is also problematic because we're encouraged to be this way and that way, all these influences, but the vectors, I feel, are very unbalanced due to the lack of real time and connection spent with fathers and other men.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And you and I have that in common, is that we didn't see our dad as much as we would like. And that is something that, as a dad of a 2-year-old right now, I think about so much, and I spend every single moment with my son I can. I probably compensate because I know how important that time is. But you're making me think about this concept of the many different flavors of masculinity. It's almost a separate subject that you need a lot of time with both of your parents. You need attention just to build that sense of security in you and your self-esteem, to know you're loved and worthy of attention. But to also just get exposure to many different types of people that, in older societies, hundreds and hundreds of years ago would occur in your direct community in the town or something like that. I suppose there's a number of different ways, even in a more dispersed society like we have today, that you can have exposure to many different men. But I wonder if kids today are getting encouraged about that, because you can be exposed to many different types of men, but there can be a modeling or a subtle message like, well, your dad is the real type of guy. This is the way guys are supposed to be. But I like the idea of it being like, it's a whole variety. I mean, you're a person before a man or a woman, and you are going to have the biological part of you, and what does that need to look like? I'd say nothing in particular, but I think taking the shame part out of it is what's hard. For some reason, we think some behaviors are shameful. You were saying it around being more expressive or dramatic, and I've certainly felt that way. I didn't cry probably for like 15 years of my life when I was most confused through my 20s and teenage years and stuff, and I just couldn't find it. And I wish I had had a model of that in a man who was okay with that. Because if you don't cry, it hurts you. It's like, I just imagine, people that are more comfortable with it, especially women, are kind of walking around like, well, yeah, of course. But to guys, this is like a novel idea.